Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and jabronis, to the most accurate, most honest NFL power rankings on the internet. I'm Mitch, and this is the video where I rank every NFL team entering Week 13. This week, a very special week in the NFL. Thanksgiving football. Black Friday football. This is the time of year where we separate the pretenders and the contenders. This is the time of year where the best of the best start to play their best. Before I rank every NFL team from the worst to the best, Gronk, spike the like button. And don't be a jabroni. Subscribe to the channel for weekly NFL power rankings just like this. By the way, join me on Thanksgiving. I'm Canadian. I'm not eating no turkey on Thursday. So where will I be? I'll be live on the Bottom Line View. If you need a place to sneak away from your family and listen in to the game, I'm here. I got you. Don't worry. I'll be live on the Bottom Line View. Let's get to it. Let's rank every team and let me know in the comments where you agree and where you disagree. Let's kick it off with a new number 32, a new worst team in the NFL. And that team is none other than the Las Vegas Raiders. When you lose to Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns in convincing fashion, when you lose to the Browns before the second quarter is even starting, the game was over. 14-0. First quarter, it's done. It's over. You are bad. You are historically bad, and you deserve to be the worst team in football on the best power rankings on the internet. Because if you could rank any team in the NFL below the Raiders, you have not witnessed or watched the Raiders lately. Of course, these power rankings are not based on week 1, week 2, week 4. They're based on right now. And the Las Vegas Raiders right now are even worse than the New York Jets and the Tennessee Titans. The Las Vegas Raiders are an utter disaster. They fired Chip Kelly for running one of the worst offenses at the NFL level I have quite frankly ever seen. Why do they keep having Brock Bowers line up at wide receiver? It completely defeats the purpose of Brock Bowers. Yeah, let's just let the other team's best corner cover Brock Bowers on the perimeter where we limit his ability to use the whole field. What are we doing? Ashton Genty, their high running back choice in the draft, has done next to nothing but be a disappointment. They have the worst offensive line in the NFL, allowing 10 double-digit sacks to the Cleveland Browns. And I get that Myles Garrett's phenomenal and he's going to break the sack record, and he had 3 of them. But there was still 7 other sacks by other individuals on the Cleveland Browns. And not only that, you made Shedeur Sanders look like a serviceable NFL quarterback, which is not the case. You made the Cleveland Browns look decent. That's how bad you are. That's how bad you are. The Raiders are really, 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 really bad. Pete Carroll needs to go in a retirement home. Thankfully, they already fired Chip Kelly. Geno Smith is washed. The O-line is catastrophic. Please, for the love of football, trade Max Crosby, even against his will. trade Max Crosby. Please. Please. He's dying. The brother is dying on that team, man. At number 31, the Tennessee Titans. If they're not last, they're certainly in the conversation. We have, guys, I think, two of the worst teams I've ever seen in the history of football competing in the NFL right now. The Raiders have not been bad the entire year. They actually started off the season with some level of promise. The Titans have been terrible since day one. They had the worst coach in football. They fired him. But really, when you look at the Titans, I think it goes to show how bad they are because of how much better they are when Jeffrey Simmons plays. At the NFL level, you shouldn't go from the worst team of all time when a player doesn't play to the second worst team in the league when a player does play. That's how bad your roster is, to the point where one player makes the difference from this might be literally the worst team I've ever seen to, okay, like at least they're somewhat a little feisty and they're not the Raiders. That's why I have them at 31, because Jeffrey Simmons makes that big of a difference. And Max Crosby, for the love of football, get traded. Jeffrey Simmons, for the love of football, get traded. And I don't think Jeffrey Simmons is always discussed in that way, but he should be. The guy is that good. He's that dominant. And this year when he's played, he's been one of the best players in football. It's kind of gone way under the radar because the Titans are that bad. But again, I say this every week. The Tennessee Titans, the only game they won this year, one game. The Cardinals fumbled the ball into their own end zone for the game-winning touchdown. And their running back, DeMarcado, fumbled the ball while running for a touchdown into the Titans' end zone, taking away a touchdown. That is the only game the Titans won this year. The only game. They might as well have 0 wins. They are 0-16 Lions, 0-16 Browns level bad. I thought Cam Ward played really well against the Seattle Seahawks. I thought Tennessee's offense actually played a lot better than I would have assumed against that dominant defense of Seattle. But Seattle, they were a little generous in that game. They were a little kind in that game. I expected Seattle to absolutely shellac Tennessee. And I have to give the Titans credit. Mike McCoy a little credit for getting his team ready to play that game. And for them early on kind of having a little bit of something. And then later in the game, fighting back. A lot of teams in this position would quit. So I'm just hopeful that Cam Ward can continue to show those strides. He doesn't have a lot around him up front or at receiver right now. The defense has very little talent. Please, for the love of football, trade Jeffrey Simmons. And please, for the love of football, support Cam Ward. Please. At number 31, I did like how they performed, though, last week. I thought it was admirable. That's why they're not the Raiders at 32. At number 30, the New York Jets. The New York Jets might be the worst number 30 in the history of my power rankings. The New York Jets are an absolutely gross football team to watch. I don't know if the Jets do anything well. I don't know if they run the ball well, stop the run well, stop the pass well, pass the ball well. They certainly don't do that. But at least they play hard. They play with a level of intensity, physicality, that you have to take them a little bit more serious than the Raiders or the Titans. They try to run the ball on you. Does it work? Not really. Tyrod Taylor, he's like 1,000 years old. I don't know how this guy is still suiting up on Sundays as a starting quarterback. It speaks to the level of the position. It speaks to where we're at with the quarterback position. which, by the way, and we'll continue to talk about this throughout this video, the quarterback position is down bad. This is one of the worst quarterbacking seasons I can remember in terms of quality. The Jets' best part of their team is their offensive line. I will say I think Aaron Glenn, the defense, has played a bit better lately. They don't have a ton of marquee names on this defense. They don't have really a marquee pass rusher as much as I like Will McDonald. They don't really have a marquee corner, right? Their linebackers are pretty good. They don't have Garrett Wilson right now. This team has a ton of draft capital, though. And what they're trying to figure out right now, if you're a Jets fan, is which of these players are going to be a part of this identity. Which part of this team, which players are going to be the guys that we move forward with. And part of my problem with the Jets is, we'll see if they solve quarterback, because they seemingly haven't since Joe Namath. And then we'll see if he's the coach, because I don't think he is. And you might be stuck with him for the first couple years of this rebuild. But yeah, the Jets just have a little bit more respectability than the other teams. That's really all I can say. I thought they hung in there with the Ravens, but it never really felt like they were ever going to win the game. It never felt like there was ever a chance they were going to win the game. Even if they hung right in there with the Ravens up until the fourth quarter. So, the Jets are at number 30. At number 29, the Cleveland Browns. Now, the best thing I can say about the Browns is their defense is dominant. And last week, it finally traveled on the road. Now, it does help to play Geno Smith and the Raiders' offensive line. 10 sacks. 10. Myles Garrett is a huge story right now on a really bad team. He could break the sack record. And I think the most impressive thing about Myles Garrett is the fact that he's playing on a team that doesn't have the lead, which means that a lot of teams he's playing against are running the ball. There's not a lot of attempts, dropbacks for him to break the sack record because they're always losing, trailing. They are now a circus with Shedeur. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I had to make a little Shedeur video for Bleacher Report, and my producer wanted me to talk about it. And I'm like, I really don't want to talk about this thing. And I'd like to open this up to the comments for you guys. Because I've just noticed, and I didn't really pay too close attention during his college days to really know. I knew the whole, like, I'd watch the occasional Colorado game and whatever, and I studied him for the draft, but I didn't really understand the, like, political storyline behind this guy. Like, I don't really get it. I don't really understand it. If anybody would like to talk about it in the comments, I just find it to be very confusing because on one hand, I think that he has probably the strangest fan base I have ever seen in my life for an individual player in almost any sport. And at the same time, he's like, for my money, like, I think it's fun. I think it's entertaining that he's playing for the Browns because I just think it's a bad team that needs a little bit of relevancy, and he's popular and he sells tickets and jerseys and people are going to tune in to watch that. And it makes one of these teams in the NFL that's bad halfway like interesting. So like from that perspective, as an NFL person, I like to see that. But at the same time, I'm like, he's clearly not good. And people like think he is. I guess that will be solved as the more that he plays. I mean, I think it was pretty obvious he was pretty bad against the Raiders. He threw one good pass to Isaiah Bond outside the pocket. Otherwise, most of his production came on a 66-yard screen for a touchdown. Like, he's not the answer. He's not the guy. But he has this insane fan base that is like, it's not common in an athlete. It's very weird. And the narrative around him is very political and very, I don't want to step in front of it. Like, I didn't want to make that video. In all honesty, I didn't want to make that video. I was like, I don't want to talk about this. Like, all I really have to say is negative. I didn't like how he handled the post-game reaction where he's talking about himself and, you know, showcasing and himself and being all about himself instead of his team. Like, guy gets first opportunity in the NFL, and he's talking about how if he would have had a training camp, he would be dangerous. And I'm like, bro, like, Drake May doesn't say that stuff. Like, Tom Brady never said that stuff. Peyton Manning never said that stuff. Russell Wilson never said that stuff. Not even Cam Newton said that stuff. You can be confident, fine, but that doesn't seem like confidence. That seems like arrogance. You just beat the Raiders. You barely did anything. And you're like all flamboyant and arrogant? It's just really weird, man. Like, and that's why he was drafted in the 5th round. He was drafted in the 5th round because nobody wants this distraction as a backup quarterback, and he's clearly a backup quarterback. So, like, I guess we'll enjoy this storyline as it goes, but it probably has a very small shelf life because I don't think anyone is going to want this guy on their team. I'm just going to be honest. Other than for, like, selling some jerseys if you're really bad. He's, like, in the category of Tommy DeVito. He is. So, I don't know. The Browns are fun. I'm intrigued by their next game against the Niners. And the thing I really appreciate about the team, and I wish they had an offense. I wish they had a quarterback. They can't move the ball. Their defense is awesome. And it feels like anytime they play at home against the Niners, against the Packers, against anyone, really, they play the Bills down the stretch, it feels like they have a chance to win that game. Ravens, they almost won that game because they have a really, really good defense with a historic player. And I think conversation about Myles Garrett, I have never even been like Myles Garrett is one of the best defensive players I've ever seen conversation. I think this is the year that puts him in that conversation because it kind of rounds out his entire body of work. His body of work is impressive, but it's not like he's never had this level of season where he's completely shattered and dominated opposition, right? J.J. Watt had those years. Aaron Donald had those years. Lawrence Taylor had those years. The best defensive players we've ever seen have had those seasons, and Myles Garrett now, with this year and the longevity that he's able to put together from beginning of his career to end, and he's still got many years left, it's going to put him in that top 5, maybe defensive player that we've ever seen conversation. So I'm rooting for that. I'm rooting for Myles to get this record. I'm not going to lie. At number 28, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints really disappointed me against the Falcons. They were at home. They were off of a bye week. I like how Tyler Shuck performed in the previous game. And I kind of thought against Kirk Cousins, without Drake London, they would be able to win this game. And they had opportunities. I thought Shuck still played well. The one thing I like about what the Saints are giving him is they're playing him with volume. And he's playing well with volume, right? He's completing a lot of passes. He's playing accurate, decisive football. And I think Shuck is playing well. But the Saints are in a really tough spot. They don't have a lot of talent, especially on defense. But, you know, Kamara's old and he's getting beat up. They really only have Chris Olave right now at receiver. And I've kind of been praising Kellen Moore, but I thought that was one of his worst performances against the Falcons. They failed in the red zone a couple times that could have turned the game. So for me, I just really disappointed by their performance against the Falcons. I thought that was a spot that you win that game, divisional, at home, off a bye, and they just fell flat, and they were never in control from the beginning. They couldn't stop Bijan when they needed to. They let a deep ball to Darnell Mooney. I mean, really disappointing game. I know the Saints aren't good, but I thought they were trending in the right direction, and man, they just completely proved me wrong. So at number 28, I got the Saints. Number 27, the Vikings. The only reason they're 27 is because they literally do not have a quarterback. This team cannot field anything better than a CFL level quarterback. Like, legitimately, I think that there are CFL quarterbacks as good, if not better, than the Vikings' current situation. JJ McCarthy is unplayable. He is that bad. He is unplayable. And then after that, we don't know what this new kid's going to be or do, but he was a third, fourth string quarterback. Very little experience. He's very inexperienced. I feel bad for Justin Jefferson. 1 year in the middle of his prime, he's getting Randy Moss with the Raiders-like treatment in terms of like, it's not even his fault. It's just this team is so bad, so disorganized, and has absolutely no quarterback play, right? Kevin O'Connell has had one of the worst, I would say easily the worst year of his career. But he has been one of the most disappointing coaches in football. I don't know why they haven't become more of a run-heavy team. He needs to look himself in the mirror. He traded for Jordan Mason for a reason. The offensive line can't stay healthy. Feels like Hawkinson hasn't been around. Addison hasn't been relevant. The defense, I think, plays okay, but they're not dominant enough to win games by themselves. They're not the Texans. So, the Vikings, I don't know, and this could be tricky. Like, Brian Flores, he might be up for some head coaching jobs this offseason. If you lose him, you might have lost. And if I were Flores, I'd be trying to get out of Minnesota because, I don't know, man. What is this team going to do at quarterback? Like, I guess if you bring in like a Mac Jones, which if I'm the Niners, I'm probably not getting rid of him, especially after this last game. But if you could bring in a Mac Jones, maybe you win 8-9 games. But like, I don't know. It's hard to find that next Drake May. It's going to be hard to find the next star quarterback if you're the Vikings because your coaching staff and your roster around that quarterback is too good to win 3 games. And your infrastructure, your culture, it's not conducive to the Raiders or the Titans like seasons. Those are the teams that are going to be picking in the top 3 because they're completely disorganized. So the Vikings are probably stuck in purgatory right now where they're going to have to find some sort of high-end backup, Marcus Mariota, Mac Jones. Maybe they could trade for Kyler Murray and take a chance there. Maybe. But like, that's kind of the spot they're in, man. So at number 27, the Vikings. Maybe Aaron Rodgers plays there next year. Who knows? At number 26, the Washington Commanders. Commanders are not very talented. The Vikings are much more talented than the Commanders. The Commanders are one of those teams that if you could ever predict an NFC championship level team from one year to the next to completely fall off to becoming one of the worst teams in football, this was one of the most obvious choices I've ever seen. 4th down luck, 1-score games, all the trends said an easiest schedule in the league. The Commanders were going to regress. But regress this badly is what has you on edge. And you couple that with all the decisions that the Commanders have made. Laramie Tunzel for a boatload of picks. Deebo Samuel, old receiver, sign him. Bobby Wagner, right? Frankie Louvu. You look at Von Miller. Big money to Javon Kinlaw. Trade for Marshawn Lattimore. Zach Ertz. Austin Eckler. This team is old as dirt. And Jaden Daniels, if he's ever as good as he was in his rookie season ever again, which I'm not so sure he'll ever be, and I'm not sure he'll ever be healthy throughout an entirety of a season to ever prove it to us, this Commanders team is back where they were. They had one miracle season, and I don't know, man. I feel bad for Commanders fans. I know many Commanders fans, and I feel bad for them, man, because that season last year was electric. It was fun. But they have poorly constructed their roster. Their defense is horrible. They can't stop the run. They can't rush the passer. And the thing is, we knew about all these flaws if you watch this channel. I was screaming at the top of my lungs. How can you go into a season with this pass rush? with this edge position. It was the worst in the league. And all their flaws have turned out to be their flaws. They can't cover anyone. Lattimore is washed. Debo is washed. If only I would have told them. Oh, I did. So the thing is, you looked smart by, oh, we're going to trade Brian Robinson and start Jakrosky Merritt, or whatever his name is, Bill. Ultimately, he's not even that good. You don't even really want to play him. So they're fine. Their gem isn't even that. This is a disaster of a team. I don't think people are talking about it enough, honestly. And I think they have like a really good offensive defensive tandem at their coordinator / head coach and offensive coordinator positions. Like Cliff and Dan Quinn are a good combination, and they just don't have the personnel. And Marcus Mariota is a top 30 quarterback in the league. Yeah, I'm including him over some starters. He's a lot better than Justin Fields. He's a lot better than Tyrod Taylor. He's a lot better than JJ freaking McCarthy. If Marcus Mariota was on the Vikings, they'd have like 7 wins. So it's not even the fact that your quarterback got hurt. It's not even that. So at number 26, the Commanders. Number 25, the Giants. One thing I'll say about the Giants is they fight and they play hard and they cover a lot of games and they're in it to the end just about every week. And I don't know how they're getting it done. I think this is one of the rare times where an intern coach might actually be the guy. Like, Kafka has really impressed me the last couple of games. I don't really typically like hiring that guy because usually he's just the worst version of the guy you fired, and maybe he is. But you have to give him some credit for how this offense is performing with no Malik Neighbors, no Cam Scattaboo, very little receiver weapons. But man, the story of this team right now to me is Jameis. And this is another one. If only you would have listened to Mitch. Would Brian Daboll still have a job if they would have just started Jameis Winston from the jump and never signed Russell Wilson? I don't know whose decision it was to sign Russell Wilson, but Jameis was always better than Russell Wilson. Jameis was better than Russell Wilson last year. And this is the thing I said. I don't understand why Cleveland didn't sign Jameis Winston. Why? Jameis played really well for Cleveland last year. Like, I don't really understand. And the thing I love about Jameis, and I know that we talk about him like he's a comedian, he's an entertainer, he's a lot of fun, but like, I'm trying to strip all that away. I'm being dead serious. Jameis Winston is a good quarterback. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL. You don't just go out and go to Detroit and throw for 360 yards and catch a 30-yard touchdown, Heismaning in the end zone, with Wan'Dale flippin' Robinson and Gunnar Olszewski as your top receivers. Like, and last year, he's better than anyone Cleveland had on their roster at quarterback. With Jameis and that defense, they would have had a chance in that division this year. I don't think anyone's talking about that. And then, like, again, back to Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll, if you had just started Jameis instead of Russell Wilson, you might have won 2 or 3 more games this year. I'm not even joking. Like, I just think there's this aspect of not only is he actually a pretty good drop back passing quarterback, but he's a galvanizing force. He's a leader. Like, people like Jameis Winston. Russell Wilson is kind of like, some people like him, some people don't like him. He's kind of corny. He's kind of cheesy. And he's very, very one-trick pony in terms of his play style. He didn't never fit the offense. But as a Patriots fan, I'm a little scared of this Giants matchup on Monday. We're missing some players on the offensive line, right? We haven't ran the ball all year, and the Giants have a terrible, atrocious, no good, awful run defense. And Shane Bowen deserves to be fired. He has way too much talent on that defense to not get fired. I mean, that is one of the worst performances we've seen from a defensive coach this year. And one thing I noticed about them is they play way too much man coverage. I don't really understand why. With this pass rush, you should be playing a lot of zone. You don't have great corners. I don't understand why you're playing so much man in the first place. So Bowen might come on to the Patriots staff as some sort of assistant because he knows Vrabel well, but I mean, like, he did nothing with the Giants. He was not a good coach with the Giants. I will say, Kafka's impressed me. Jameis is a story. I kind of hoping that he plays over Dart because I love Jameis. But, you know, I don't really care. Dart's the future for that team. Dart's put the Giants in a good position in terms of they're going to have a high pick. They have a nucleus of players that they really like, right? Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, edge rusher, couple edge rushers. They've got a really good core. They're one of the fun rebuilding teams to look forward to. And they're still playing hard. At number 25. At number 24, the Atlanta Falcons. They're the Atlanta Falcons. How do you figure this team out? How do you know what they're going to bring on any given Sunday? One week, they allow 400 flipping yards to Bryce Young. The next week, they beat the Saints in New Orleans convincingly, fairly convincingly, with Kirk Cousins and no Drake London. The Falcons are just that team to me that I look at them and I'm like, I don't think they have a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think Michael Penix is very good. I don't think Kirk Cousins is very good. Okay? If you put Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh, never mind a quarterback on this team, they probably are in the playoffs. If you just switched their coaching staffs, the Falcons are a contender in the NFC. I don't even care. Like, the fundamental issue with the Falcons is their coaches are not that good. They have offensive line talent. They have one of the best running backs in football. They have one of the best receivers in football. They have a talented tight end they can never use correctly. They have multiple other receivers. They have high young draft picks on the defensive line that have showed out in moments this year. They have a killer middle linebacker that I love. They have a really actually underrated secondary with a lot of youthful talent. I think the Falcons would be a team that if I was a coaching candidate, I would be very interested in. Now, they do need to find a quarterback, I think, because I don't think Penix is the guy and he's injured again. And they don't have a first-round pick. But that's a team to me where you put Mac Jones on that team. And I guess you could, if Penix is okay to play, you could ride with him for another year. You trade for somebody, and all of a sudden they're kind of interesting with a good coach. Like, I think they're in that Vikings territory where it's like, there's talent here. We need to solve the main problems. And that's what I was talking about with the Falcons before the season. I don't trust them because I don't trust their quarterback. I don't trust their coach. I like the other aspects of the team. I had some questions about the defense, but that's actually way outperformed expectations. So at number 24, I have the Falcons. Number 23, the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray will be on the block. Jacoby Brissett continues to play really well for this team at quarterback. And it's actually incredible how good Michael Wilson looks. I mean, my goodness, what a difference a quarterback can make. Michael Wilson was always kind of talented. I always kind of liked him. Kind of liked him in the draft. Kind of liked him in best ball, the last couple of years in fantasy. And he was one of those guys where I was like, yeah, he could be a wide receiver too, breakout. And all it really took was a quarterback who could make the throws and play on time and rip the ball. And all of a sudden, Michael Wilson is looking really good. And Marvin Harrison, this could have been his time to shine. Obviously, he'll come back. But, I don't know what to do with the Cardinals. I don't necessarily love Jonathan Gannon. I feel like if they fired him, they would be fine with, I would be fine with that decision. I don't think he's gotten the most out of a defense this year that he probably should have. I mean, this was kind of the year for me for him to prove himself, where they brought in Calais Campbell, and he's played really well. They brought in Josh Sweat. He's had his moments. They re-signed Baron Browning, right? They have Budda Baker. They have Jalen Thompson. They drafted Will Johnson. And I know there's been a lot of injuries, but that defense, it feels like the last couple of weeks has been really, really bad. Really, really bad. And I don't know. I just don't know. Jonathan Gannon doesn't feel like a strong leader. and he's not getting the most out of the defense. And the offense, the offense I understand, because really it doesn't have a lot of talent. Especially, they don't have a running back that, Trey McBride's a dog, but Marvin Harrison's hurt, James Conner's hurt, offensive linemen are hurt, Jonah Williams. I understand why the offense, but the offense is playing well. The offense is completing passes. The offense is moving the ball. The offense is scoring points. The defense can't stop anybody right now. And I get it. They're in a really tough division, but I don't know. I think there needs to be change there. I think it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. I think they're probably going to draft a quarterback, but I don't know if they shouldn't look at a new head coach too. At number 23. At number 22, the Cincinnati Bengals. So the Bengals move up because Joe Burrow is back. I don't know if that will be beneficial in the short term, because I don't know if Joe Burrow is going to be Joe Burrow right away, but it does provide hope and spark to this team. This is a team, though, that needs to make some changes. This is a team that needs to fire Zach Taylor. I don't hate Zach Taylor as a coach. There's certainly others that don't like him more than me. I think he's been fine, but I don't think fine is good enough. I certainly feel like if you took a different approach, went in a different direction, it wouldn't be a bad idea. It just got stale, and I think Zach Taylor is a little soft, and I don't really know what Zach Taylor does in elite level. Offensively, I think he's done some good things with Joe Burrow, but how much of this is just Joe Burrow's offense? And this is an example of a team that I think should hire a defensive coach, because I think they have so much offensive talent. It reminds me a lot of the Colts with Peyton Manning, when they hired Tony Dungy. It's okay, let's get a defensive coach that can handle that side of the ball at a high level. He can build his defense. We have this unique quarterback. We have Jamar Chase. We have T. Higgins. We've spent multiple picks on our offensive line. We've got Chase Brown, a good running back, even some nice, accessories like Mike Gesicki or whatever. And we've got our offense. We know what we're going to run. We know what we are, right? You could even bring back Callahan from the Titans and help Burrow out and run that offense, right? That's what they were doing before. Defensively, we need a guy like Flores. We need some toughness. We're Cincinnati. We play in the cold. We should have an advantage, but we don't play tough. We don't stop the run. We don't cover kicks. We don't hit people. We don't tackle. This team kind of needs Vontaze Burfict, if you know what I'm saying. They kind of need assholes on defense. And I think they've improved since the bye week. They've done some good things. They don't have a lot of talent on defense, but there's going to be change here. Trey Hendrickson's probably going to be gone. Okay, they need some new personnel, but I think they need to start with their head coach. There's no excuses. This defense is historically bad, and without Joe Burrow, the team falls apart, and I just kind of feel like you're sitting on something that should be special, and the Bengals, I think you need to make some changes. So, Joe Flacco did his thing. Joe Flacco has played admirably in the place of Joe Burrow, and the offense has gotten a lot better since the Jake Browning disaster, but I'm excited to see how Joe Burrow plays for the rest of the year. I hope he stays healthy entering next year, but this team is a far ways away from being competitive, from being a contender, the way that they want to be, okay? And it starts at the top. At number 21, Miami. The Miami Dolphins they're so interesting to me because for much of the season, a lot of people have been acting like Mike McDaniel was going to get fired. Mike McDaniel is going to go. And recently, Mike McDaniel has turned this team around. And the team, the players, have responded to him. And they have played a lot harder. They've played a lot better. And I think the defense has played a lot better. The offense has played pretty good too. But the defense, which was a disaster at the beginning of the year, they trade Jalen Phillips, probably their most talented player. They're still playing hard. And Miami's one of those teams that they're a good, bad team. They're a good, bad team. Offensively, they have a unique scheme you have to prepare for. They have a couple playmakers in the backfield and wide receiver, Waddle and A-Shane, that you have to respect. Defensively, they play hard, right? And it feels like they've gotten a lot more physical, and they just play a lot more fast the last couple of weeks. And they're coming off their bye week. They came off a win against Washington. They beat the Bills. That was a big win for them at home. They're going to have chances to knock off New England later in the year. They could end this season with a good buzz and a good feel, but the biggest mistake they could possibly make is by bringing Tua back next year. That would be the biggest mistake they could make. They need to reshape and recraft the offensive line. They need to build this offense around a new quarterback. Tyreek Hill is likely going to be gone, but you do have enough pieces there to build Mike McDaniel a new offense. Defensively, I kind of think they do need some talent at corner. They need some talent in the front seven, but it's like, to me, this is an example of a situation where it's not the coach. It's not the coach. It's that the talent is not there and the quarterback is not there. And a big reason for that is the team made a decision to pay a quarterback that is not worth that money. And it completely evaporated the pieces around the quarterback that made the quarterback good in the first place. Okay, so that's number 21, the Miami Dolphins. At number 20, Carolina. Carolina honestly embarrassed themselves on Monday Night Football. That was an embarrassing performance by the Carolina Panthers. I feel bad for Panthers fans. They get a chance every 4 years to be on Monday Night Football, it feels like. One time I recall John Gruden was making a smoothie in the third quarter against the Eagles. And this week, you got Brock Purdy absolutely pooping himself on national television in the first half. And the Niners are still able to get the lead, maintain the lead, and never even look back once, despite their quarterback turning the ball over 3 times in one half. That is an embarrassing performance because the 49ers have been pathetic on defense for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and the Panthers could not do jack diddly squat against this defense. They refused to stay and stick with their identity, which is the run game. Bryce Young looked absolutely brutal, right? Their younger players did not rise to the occasion until late. McMillan scored a touchdown. Their defense, I actually thought played hard, and they made plays that could allow them to win this game and stay in this game. But eventually, Shanahan just death by 1,000 paper cutted them all the way into the end zone, and enough for the victory. And this is an example of a game and a team where the Panthers were simply outclassed by a team that knows how to play in that environment on that day under those lights. That is a professionalism that the Panthers simply don't have. They don't have that professionalism at the coaching level. They don't have it at the quarterback level. They don't have it on defense or offense. The Panthers are a team that prides themselves on physicality, and they got punched in the mouth by the 49ers. And I've been saying all year, this is one of the worst teams I've ever seen with a 6-5, 5-5, whatever their record is, 6-6 record I've ever seen. They don't have a lot of talent, and the quarterback is not very good. He's extremely inconsistent, and honestly, he only really plays well when teams try to oversell and stop the run. That's the only time he plays well. And I really like Bryce. I think Bryce is a good guy. I mean, I watched that interview before the game. He seems like a very good guy. But he is simply not made to be an NFL starting quarterback. It's over, okay? And I don't know, the Panthers tried to outthink themselves, outdo it on offense, and then defensively, I mean, it's understandable. The Niners' offense is very, very talented. They still came up with the 3 interceptions that Brock Purdy threw to you. I mean, how do you not take advantage of that? A decent team, not even a good team, takes advantage of that moment. And the Panthers simply were not ready for that moment. So at number 20, the worst of the bad, or the best of the worst, or the worst of the best, the Panthers. At number 19, the Steelers. The one thing I can say about the Steelers is they won't back down from a moment. But the thing about the Steelers is they're that old boxer that used to be able to knock you out with their uppercut. And nowadays, that uppercut is just a little slow. That reaction time, that counter, right, is just a little slow. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't have that same punching power in terms of what made them great in the first place. Their defense is not the same. They're trying to win games by knocking you out on defense, and they're in a shootout every game. They're in a shootout every week. This team is playing opposite how they should be playing. And that is just basically an example of a team that is not good. Their identity is supposed to be run the football, multi-tight end formations, play actions and screens. Their offense is played up to expectation. I don't think you can make an argument against that. Their defense has been a downright disaster. And I think it's time to start anew in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin has been the most overrated coach for about a decade in the NFL. I've been saying it since I started this channel. He is extremely overrated against good coaches. Ben Johnson proved that once again. He's extremely overrated in big moments. Can he uplift a team to pull off a miracle victory where they turn it over 5 times? Sure, Mike Tomlin every once in a while can motivate a team. And sure, he is good at stabilizing a locker room. But sometimes guys need something different. Like, what is Mike Tomlin providing the Pittsburgh Steelers schematically that is giving them an edge on Sundays? To me, there's absolutely nothing. He doesn't bring anything to the offense, and the offense has been one of the worst in football, like putrid levels, since Ben Roethlisberger retired. And this is probably the best offense they've had since Ben Roethlisberger retired this year under Arthur Smith with Aaron Rodgers, and even Mason Rudolph didn't do a half-bad job, and they ran the ball well against Chicago. Kenny Gainwell had a really good game. Defensively, they stink. They don't do anything well. They don't stop the run well. They don't rush the quarterback as well as they used to. They don't stop the pass. They're bleeding yards in the pass game. They're not a good team. They don't deserve to be anywhere near the playoff conversation. They are a bad football team with an overrated coach, and they just simply do not have the overwhelming offensive talent to win games where their defense stinks. This is the highest paid defense in football. This is like Hall of Fame players that are past their prime. That's what it is. At number 19, the Pittsburgh Steelers. At number 18, the Chargers. The Chargers, I firmly believe, would be a contender if they had an offensive line. But the Chargers do not have an offensive line. So therefore, I actually think the Chargers are going to miss the playoffs. The Chargers have a really tough schedule down the stretch. Now, maybe during this bye week, they recalibrated, they re-coordinated, they'll have a chance to bully an opponent in the Raiders, and if they don't do that, they're in trouble, right? Justin Herbert has had a really up and down season. Some of the best football I've ever seen him play, some of the worst football I've ever seen, okay? I really do like some of their pieces offensively, and I think next year, this might be a team to really take serious as a contender. But they have clear Achilles heels. Pass protection, offensive line, and run defense. They are bullied off the ball, pushed around on defense, but where they're good, they're good. Quarterback, passing game when they get the chance, and pass coverage, pass defense. But they're a very flawed team at a fundamental level right now because of the injuries that's happened. But this is the thing about Harbaugh. That's where I'm just not into this. Like, Harbaugh is this incredible coach. He's good, right? He might be a better version of Mike Tomlin right now, but he's not this elite coach that everybody makes him out to be. So, at number 18, the Chargers. At number 17, Chicago. Perhaps the next elite coach we have in the NFL is Ben Johnson, and Lions fans told me that I was not smart to say that. Well, turns out Lions fans are wrong and regretting that, because Ben Johnson has been perhaps the biggest thing that the Lions are missing on their team right now, and it's the thing that's keeping the Bears into a playoff conversation. The Bears have a really effective offense with very little coming from their quarterback. Their quarterback misses half his throws every week. He takes one really bad sack and or one really egregious mistake feels like every game. He does sprinkle in some electric plays, but he is an extremely inconsistent player. He is a Kyler Murray. He's a Trevor Lawrence. That's what Caleb Williams is, okay? The offensive line is awesome. The run game is good. The weapons, I really like them. Ben Johnson, that formula on offense is working. It's cooking. The defense, I'm intrigued by Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon returning. Now, I do think they have one of the weakest defensive lines in football. I do think they are really struggling with injuries at linebacker. They're a bad defense. They're a flawed team. It is a weird team because the offense is awesome, except the quarterback is kind of holding them back, and the defense is not very good, but it's very opportunistic. It's a weird team. They're benefiting from playing an easy schedule. We'll see how they play against the Eagles. It's a step up in class, but I think with Ben Johnson, they've got a bright future. And I like Dennis Allen, too, as a coordinator. So, at number 17, the Bears are pretty mid, but they're a fun mid, I would say. At number 16, Jacksonville. Jacksonville, I just think compared to Chicago, they've kind of played up in class a little bit more often. They have like a big win over the Chiefs. I don't know if I can say Chicago has like a marquee victory, but Jacksonville, I really like their run game. Liam Cohen's done a good job with that. I think they have a lot of weapons in the passing game. And Lawrence, I do think as a drop back passer, has his moments of brilliance. Him and Caleb, very similar, generational talents with very erratic quarterback accuracy and behavior. Lawrence makes a brilliant throw, and then he throws it to the defense. Caleb protects the ball, right? That's a good thing about Caleb, at least. But Trevor, it's like 2-3 picks a week. You're not going to beat any team in the NFL playoff conversation doing that. But he's doing that on regularity right now. Now, Jacoby Myers looks like a good fit. Brenton Strange is back. He played well last week, right? They've got Brian Thomas. They've got some pieces, okay? ETN's had a great year. Defensively, they have their moments. Their pass rush has its moments. I think they are a really good run defense. I think they're a better defense than a Chicago, but they do give up a lot of yards in the passing game, and they can really be targeted in the passing game. So I don't want to see them in the playoffs, but looking at their schedule, it's likely they make it. When you look at who they play, the Tennessees of the world, right? The Raiders, I think, or something like that. Like, they've got a weak schedule down the stretch. Their Cant was convincing me of that. It's unfortunate because I'd rather see a team like the Texans over them, or the Chiefs, of course, but like Jacksonville might make it in because they had enough early season success and they have a weak schedule down the stretch. At number 15, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay continues to fall down my power rankings, as they should. They have played some embarrassing football as of late, specifically defensively. And this is another guy that I don't think he'll get fired, but like Todd Bowles probably should be fired. I mean, and I like Todd Bowles. Like, again, none of this is personal. If I were to talk to Todd Bowles for an interview for an hour, I would love it. I think Todd Bowles is a great guy, and I think he's had some great moments in the NFL as a defensive coach. But man, like, this guy every year continues to roll out a below average defense that really can't stop the pass. And if you can't stop the pass in the modern NFL, you're toast. Sure, you're great against the run, and you got big, hulking guys up front that can help you. And Vita Vea is a monster. He's a unique player in that regard. But your pass rush is below average. You've got talent in the secondary. You can't convince me otherwise, and you can't cover a soul. They just get killed down the middle of the field in the passing game. And they don't have a lot of athleticism on the edge. They're very slow. And then on offense, it's just like Baker. He doesn't have interior protection. Wirfs has been beat up all year, and he's trying to persevere, right? The receiving core, teams have kind of figured out Emeka Ibuka. He's fallen back down to earth, and there's not really a lot else there right now without Mike Evans. Chris Godwin is clearly not the same player right now. Bucky Irving, without him, the screen game is non-existent, right? Sean Tucker's played admirably, but this is a team that I think is still going to make the playoffs. I think a team that's still going to win their division, and I'd still much rather have them than Carolina, because the Bucs, they have a quarterback that will rise to the occasion, that can carry a team. They have a lot of experience, and they do have talent to where on offense they can outduel a team and make it exciting in the playoffs. The Panthers will simply not show up in a big moment. So the Bucs, I appreciate that. But they just feel like defensively they're way too flawed. And right now their offense doesn't have any sort of creativity, flavor, something to put them over the top or give them an edge. And their offensive line is really struggling to block up the middle of the field. At number 14, San Francisco. San Francisco, as I've continued to say, is a really big threat to any playoff team because I think right now this is the best coaching staff in the NFL, and I don't think it's really that close. I'd maybe say the Rams are fairly close, but even them, I felt like the Niners have outcoached them. This is just a team that is missing 2 Hall of Fame players on defense that if they had them, I think they might have won the Super Bowl. I really think so. Like, they're missing Fred Warner, who, other than Luke Kuechly, might be the best linebacker I've seen since, like, 2010. And Nick Bosa, who was, like, maybe the second best edge rusher in the league behind Myles Garrett at the beginning of the year. So, it's really tough to overcome that, especially with such a young team. And they have other injuries, too. I mean, that doesn't even include their first-round pick, Mykel Williams, right? But the fundamental right now is the 49ers, and saying this on Monday Night Football, they had 3 interceptions from their quarterback in the first half, and they still covered the spread against an above 500 team, and they won by double digits against a above 500 team, 20-9, despite turning it over 3 times in the first half. That is pretty impressive. Their defense played lights out. I thought their safeties played phenomenal. And Keon White, Bryce Huff made a difference up front. Like, their corners played really well. And I think that they can have those moments because Saleh will put together a good plan. Like, I was kind of talking to Ultra and Durkant, like, the Eagles don't want to play the Niners because if there's a team that could simply be flat out outcoached to such a degree that they lose, it's probably the Eagles. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't even matter the level of talent on the field if you get so schematically just absolutely chopped up. But the 49ers fundamental right now is, should Brock Purdy be playing? Because Brock Purdy has been downright, and I like Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has been downright bad. Bad since the beginning of 2024. Bad. He has 23 interceptions in 21 games. 23. And we've seen Mac Jones play for this team, and Mac Jones is not a world beater. Mac Jones is a mediocre quarterback. Mac Jones, if I were to say, he's probably like the 25th best quarterback in football. I think that's kind of fair. Mac Jones would have put up 30 points on Monday Night Football against the Panthers because Mac Jones would not have made those boneheaded mistakes. And the thing that really kills me about Brock Purdy is every time I see him throw an interception, and this is consistent, I see another player open on the play. And I'm like, why did you make that throw? What is going through your head? Why? There's a player open. George Kittle's crossing the middle. Christian McCaffrey's underneath. Take the 6 yards. Instead, Brock Purdy tries to be Brett Favre and throws the ball into double coverage consistently. And there's Niners fans that will defend Brock Purdy to the ends of the earth, and they'll say that it's not his fault for some reason, despite the literal proof in the pudding. This guy is right now turning the ball over at a historic rate. He is like 05 Eli Manning level bad. He is like Rex Grossman level bad with turnovers, and you can't win with that. Purdy's done some good things in this league, but he has been a Jekyll and a Hyde. And I almost feel like you kind of have to play him because his contract is what it is. But I kind of think that with their entire offense back, which Mac Jones never really had, Mac Jones would be the better option right now and has clearly played better this season than Brock Purdy, which is indisputable. It is not even an argument. Mac Jones has played far better than Brock Purdy this year. So as somebody that roots for the 49ers and likes both quarterbacks, and honestly loved Mac Jones when he was on the Patriots as a rookie and when he was drafted, then kind of gave up on the guy, to be honest with you. Gave up on the guy. loved Brock Purdy, and now I'm starting to give up on Brock Purdy. Like, he just makes so many mistakes. And he doesn't have the physical ability to overcome it. He's not the same quarterback he was in 2022, 2023. Mac Jones has been better. And they're probably never going to go through that way because it's not really worth it at this stage for the 49ers to do that. But, like, I don't know, man. Like, he's got to play better. Like, he's got to play better. There's no reason they shouldn't have scored 30 points last night. So, yeah, I just want to see the Niners win. Like, I'm a Niners fan. So, I'd like to see them win games. Number 13, the Houston Texans. The Texans have one of the best defenses of all time. Period. I know that's probably bold, but if you were to look into the statistics, how they match up with like the 2013 Legion of Boom, it's pretty familiar. It's pretty similar. They're first in virtually every metric that matters. Yards, points, right? First downs. They're dominant. Dominant. They had nearly double-digit sacks against Josh Allen. That is impeccable. The number one graded offensive line entering the game was the Bills. And they beat the absolute piss out of them. And I've been saying this since last year, really. I was literally in the Texans hype video talking about their defense. I ranked it number one in the NFL. I don't think a lot of people did that before the year. And I'm trying to give myself kudos and pats on the back, but like, this is why, as a Patriots fan, hell no, I don't want to see the Texans in the first round. Forget about it, dude. And this team is scary because whether it be Mills or Stroud, sure, I think Stroud's better, but Mills has played appropriate football, and their offense is seemingly getting a little bit better with every game, and their offensive line isn't a complete disaster. They do have formidable weapons. Nico Collins is a stud. If CJ can play anywhere close to his rookie form, it's a dangerous football team because they can win 16-13 against anyone in the league. I don't even care who's playing offense or quarterback. Like, they're capable if their offense doesn't turn it over. So this is a scary team, and I think they're a lot better than their record. At number 12, the Green Bay Packers. The Packers had a convincing win over the Vikings where they really didn't have to do much on offense to get this win. But I think they played finally the appropriate brand of football for this game. I really complained about the Packers multiple times against the Panthers and the Browns. Jordan Love and how he approached these games. Like, you're playing against J.J. McCarthy, 9. He is not an NFL quarterback. He's not even a CFL quarterback. Just don't make a stupid mistake. And the Packers ran the ball, and they got a few first downs from Christian Watson, and that was it. That was really it. So, I don't know what to take from that game. This is a bigger measuring stick game. The Packers, though, Jaden Reed is going to help down the stretch. I like the defense. I don't love the defense. I think there's aspects you really like. I think the front seven speed is definitely up there. They do have susceptibilities. I think that you can kind of chop them up with 10-play drives, 9-play drives, long drives, running, balance, quick throws, things like that. Kind of like Dallas did, or the Giants even. But I think they're in that conversation in the NFC. The only team I'd for sure say is better is the Rams. Other than that, I think they can play with anybody in the NFC. And that's despite losing Tucker Kraft, who's been one of the best tight ends in football. So I'm excited for this Thanksgiving game. At number 11, Dallas. Yeah, Dallas. Dallas is a good team. And I told you guys that. And I've kind of been ranking them higher and higher and higher and higher. Because, guys, look, there's not a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And there's not a lot of good offenses in the NFL right now that I trust. There's not a lot of offenses with this level of talent at receiver. And I told you guys, if the Cowboys have a formidable, average, mediocre defense, they are going to be a really good team that's going to be really hard to beat. And that's what proved to be against the Eagles. And yes, the Eagles are unique because they are a good team with a good record and they are a dominant defense. And Dallas is a divisional foe, but they do sputter on offense to allow you into games. And Dallas took advantage. Finally, someone did, thankfully. But Dallas, I think this is transferable. I want to see how they play against Kansas City because their offense, they can throw it, they can run it, they have balance, they have a good offensive line, they have a really good quarterback. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, the best receiver combo in football. Ferguson's a damn good tight end. Javonte's running really hard, right? And then defensively, their defensive line is top 10 in the NFL, guys. I've been saying this. Like, Quinnen Williams, Odigizua, Kenny Clark, Dante Fowler, Ezaraku, Jadeveon Clowney. It's a damn good defensive line. Overshown and Logan Wilson helped them at linebacker. They don't have good cornerbacks, but you have a really good offense with a really good defensive line. For me, that's a top 12 team in the NFL. This is a top 3, top 5 offense in the league that can score on basically everybody. So I have them at number 11. Number 10, the Ravens. I don't know what to do with the Ravens. I need to see them beat a good team. They haven't done that all year. Chiefs, Lions, loss, right? Bills, loss. And they barely survived against the Jets. But it's still the Ravens at the end of the day. I really like their secondary. I think it's very, very good. I think their defense has gotten better. It's playing much better on third down and in the red zone. And situationally, they're getting big stops. Lamar is not himself, so I'm hopeful that he can become himself. Derrick Henry in that run game is still something that you have to prepare for. And I'm intrigued by this matchup on Thanksgiving to see if the offense can cook. Because if you can't cook against Cincinnati, there's something wrong. But this is likely a team in the AFC that no one really wants to play in the playoffs because in any given moment, Lamar can turn that switch and they can become a dominant offense. And defensively, with how they're trending to be a top half defense at least. So, number 10, we'll see how the Ravens perform on Thanksgiving. Number 9, the Bills. I am not really going to crucify the Buffalo Bills for losing to the Texans in a game that I thought they would lose. I'm just not. It's a really bad matchup for the Bills. The Texans are overwhelmingly more talented on defense than the Bills' offense. And it's just simply not a matchup that Josh Allen can dominate against. So that's the Bills. The thing is, the Bills would perform a lot better against other teams that are a lot better than the Texans. If the Bills played the Rams, I think the Bills would put up 24, 27, 30, 35 points. Against the Texans, 10, 14. So it's a matchup league, right? And the Bills, they have a very good pass defense. They have a very good run game, and they've got a very good quarterback. Brandon Cooks, the archer. Hopefully that helps a little bit on the outside at wide receiver. He's a professional receiver. He is old, but he's a professional receiver. Dalton Kincaid was out. That really hurt. Shakira had a great game. I want to give Shakira a shout out. But that is the Texans. Every defense in the league, no other defense in the league could do that to the Bills. None. 8 sacks, 9 sacks. None. Forget about it. None. The Falcons were pretty close, but honestly, it's just the Texans. It's an outlier. It's an outlier. You can't really take too much away from it. I think the Bills are about to destroy the Steelers this week. Destroy. And I think the way the AFC looks right now, if the Bills made the Super Bowl this year, I wouldn't even be shocked despite all their flaws. Because every team in the AFC is flawed. At number 8, the Colts, who are a team that I have above the Bills. And I could see the Bills going to the Super Bowl. But at the same time, I can't see the Colts going to the Super Bowl. But at the same time, I still think that they deserve to be ranked higher because they're more overall consistent and formidable team. Now, the reason I can't see the Colts is because I need to see them rise to the occasion and beat a good team. And I need to see Daniel Jones do it. I know Jonathan Taylor can go off, but I need Daniel Jones in a big moment to make a big throw under duress. Defensively, too, highly disappointing with how they finished that game and really how they played that game. They allowed 500 yards in that game. 500. Sure, they were good in the red zone, but not good enough. Yeah, you're missing DeForest Buckner, but you trade 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner and you can't play a lick of man coverage. That's a concern. That's a concern. Colts just feel like frauds. I'm sorry to say, I wanted to believe in this team. They do have talent, but the offensive line has not played as well lately. The quarterback has regressed. The offense in general has regressed. Jonathan Taylor, whenever he doesn't go off, they lose. So at number 8, I have the Colts. Number 7, the Lions. The Lions are kind of like the NFC's Colts. Defense has talent, but for some reason doesn't always play to its talent. And the Lions do have injuries in the secondary. And we'll see them tested against the Packers. They're at home in a big game, and typically they take care of business in that spot. But more to me is the frustration with Jared Goff, his check down Charlie-ness, the interior offensive line imploding. If not for Jahmyr Gibbs looking like prime Barry Sanders, they would have lost to the New York Giants with no Malik Neighbors, no Jackson Dart, no Cam Skattebo, and the worst run defense in football. At home. Jameis did whatever he wanted. They shredded the Lions for 500 yards. That was embarrassing. Embarrassing. The Lions are way too talented to be this fraudulent. They feel fraudulent. I don't think they're going to be able to outcoach a team in a big game. And it just feels like their quarterback can get rattled. They can lose the offensive line battle. And their defensive line isn't dominant enough to take over the game themselves. They're a damn talented team. They have an explosive enough group of players and offense where they can come back and win a game. But I'm not sold on this team at all. Number 6, the Chiefs. The Chiefs, from a statistical perspective, are one of the best teams in football. They don't have the record to show it, but they are. And in all honesty, this is a really good team on paper. It is. I think for most of the year, their quarterback has held them back. He has not played that well. Their receiving core is the best it's been since 2021. Kareem Hunt is the best short yardage running back in football. Their offensive line is good. And yet their entire fan base is blaming Andy Reid, one of the best offensive minds in NFL history, for the lack of production from their quarterback, who has been extremely inconsistent this year. Defensively, they have a lot of flaws. But they're so well coached, and they're very good in certain areas. Very good at corner, very good at Chris Jones, and pretty damn good at linebacker too. And that showed up against the Colts. And what I love about the Chiefs is any given time they need to stop the run, they do. And they force Daniel Jones to beat them. And then the thing you like about the Chiefs is you know you're going to get a good game plan every single time out. You know you're going to get a good game plan. So they're more flawed than years past, and Mahomes certainly isn't the player that he was, but there's still a scary element about them, especially at home. Luckily for a lot of the AFC, they'll probably play on the road in the playoffs because they seem like a different team in that environment. At number 5, the Patriots. The reason I moved the Patriots down is because of injuries. Will Campbell out for a while. Jared Wilson out for a while, left tackle, left guard. Milton Williams, losing him was significant to their run defense and their defensive front. He's been our most consistent defensive player this year. That being said, the AFC is so flawed. If the Patriots are able to basically win every game except for lose to one of the Ravens or the Bills, we should have home field advantage this year and a bye this year. And you can't really convince me that the Patriots can't make a run to the Super Bowl because we probably have the better quarterback in 99% of the games. And we have a good offense and a situationally good defense. And what I was impressed about the Patriots is The way the defense stepped up early in the game when Drake May was playing like shit. The way the defense finished the game when we needed a stop. The way the offense and Drake May was able to respond to playing like shit. And then it just feels like this team makes plays when they need to make plays. There's a fundamental level of this team that has this clutch. Special teams, defense, offense, it's going to come from somewhere. And they just feel like they make plays, man. Marcus Jones. Number 5. Number 4, Denver. I have Denver at 4 because they're not beat up like the Patriots, and both teams have played at a really high level. I do think the Patriots have been more convincing in a lot of their wins, but Denver, I got to give them credit. Like, I don't think they have a good offense at all. They're basically the AFC's version of the Eagles, but they have been clutch in the big moments, and they've won a lot of close games, and their defense is awesome. Their defense is the second or third best in the league, only behind Houston, really, for me, and that gives them a chance. Like, they've got a great coaching staff that can manipulate on offense and make a couple plays, and they've got a dominant defense, and if they do get home field, it's a scary place to play. Mile High can be scary in the playoffs, so I don't love their quarterback, and I think they're bound to lose because of him, but I have them at number 4 nonetheless. Number 3, the Philadelphia Eagles. Speaking of, I think they're bound to lose because of their quarterback. I think it's the Eagles as well. Now, people continue to blame their play calling, but I think at a fundamental level, people refuse to understand that Jalen Hurts is running his own offense. And that's a big part of the problem. But I think the biggest part of the problem is that the Philadelphia Eagles can't run the ball. And because they can't run the ball, they just don't have the gas that they did last year. The reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year is because their run game was historically good, and they had a very good defense, an excellent, elite, best defense in football that season, and one of the best of the past 5-6 years. So they had a historic run game and a borderline historic defense. And so with that historic run game, in the games that they needed to throw, the Commanders, the Chiefs, those teams sold out so much to stop Saquon that Jalen Hurts was given easy throws. Because notice how the rest of the year, Saquon went off. And no one really did anything about it, but the Eagles, they couldn't pass the ball. Notice that? Well, they don't have the run game that anyone needs to respect anymore. And their pass game is statistically better this year, but it sputters because they're very vanilla. I think that I have the Eagles 3 because I think they have the talent to put it together. They have the talent to turn it around. They still have a dominant offensive line in pass protection. You see how many plays Jalen Hurts had just like walking around in the backfield? They have a very good defense, and only really Dallas and maybe one or two other teams could do that to the Eagles defense. Now, they are building up some injuries that are concerning, and they do feel like a team that could go to the NFC Championship or could lose the first game. But I'm giving them the respect that's due because of their lineage and because of their success and because of their talent. But I really don't like this formula that they're putting forth at number 3. At number 2, the Seahawks. Seahawks are the second most well-rounded team with the second least glaring flaws that you're like, oh, that's going to kill them. But their biggest flaw is not a tangible thing. It's an intangible. It's clutch performance, and it's big game ability. We've never seen the Seahawks team play in a big game, and we've never seen them play well in a big game. We've never seen Sam Darnold play well in a big game. We have never seen Seattle this year beat a good team. Period. So, they're dominant on defense, top 5 defense. They're a top 10 offense. JSN is having a historic season. They've got an awesome running back. I like their offensive scheme. I like their defensive scheme. They've got a dominant defensive front. Pass and run. Second most well-rounded team. But in crunch time, can they do it? I don't know. I think they could beat the Eagles. They should beat the Eagles with how the Eagles play offense. But if the game came down to the last drive, who am I taking? Probably the Eagles. Because one team probably won't turn it over 4 times, and the other team might. So at number 2, Seattle. Number 1, the Rams. I mean, there's nothing to say here. Stafford, MVP, Puka, Adams. The O-line is good. Not great. I think fans are fair to criticize it. Their running backs aren't great, in my opinion, but the scheme in the run game is effective. McVay is coaching his ass off. Defensively, people get on me for criticizing their secondary. Guys, it's a high bar for the Rams. People are talking about them as the best team in the league and the Super Bowl favorite. I need to criticize areas of their team. I personally believe that there are these defenses that we've seen in the past that are a lot like them. If you can block them, you can beat them. That is the formula. Block them, beat them. But a lot of teams can't block them. And that's the fundamental level, right? I think they do have flaws in their secondary and at linebacker. But a lot of teams can't get there. And their offense is so good that they get the lead and it's hard to take advantage of it, right? So a certain game script has to be had. And basically to beat the Rams, you have to be able to get to Stafford and you have to be able to stop their pass rush. And that's why the Eagles beat the Rams. But I have them at number 1 because they're definitely the best team in the league. There's no question about it. The way they're playing right now, they actually look like a damn good team. And there are not good teams in this league. There are not a lot of them. There it is, guys. Gronk spiked the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. It's Mitch. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.